Hello, super expanders. How are you doing? I am so excited because we have someone who is near and dear to my heart. She is just literally a shining light. She has so much energy, so much vibrancy, and I cannot wait for this conversation and for her to share her wisdom with you. Meet Natasha Wilch.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited for you to be here too. So, just a little bit of context for everyone listening how we met. So I feel like all of the most amazing people in my life have somehow entered into my life through a mastermind. At least that's how it has been lately. And Natasha and I met inside of a mastermind for entrepreneurs. I don't know, geez, a year ago now, a year and a half ago. I don't even know.
Yeah,
I don't
at
even.
least a year ago.
At least, who knows? I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like COVID has definitely distorted my time reality. So I have just stopped trying to figure out when things happened. Yeah. So we met inside of a mastermind and we like really hit it off. And now, I mean, here we are on the Super Expander podcast, sharing all the things. So we take it deep here. I gave you a little bit of context before we hit the record button, and I've learned that I have to do this because the question that I ask normally sometimes it can throw people off a little bit. So who is Natasha? And deep down in her soul, I mean, I know actually really who you are deep down, but I want you to share with everyone listening, who you are at your essence.
I love that we talked about this because the natural response that everyone wants to give is our profession.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that. So I am a deeply compassionate woman. I bring fire and drive and heart to absolutely everything that I do. Relationships are one of the most important things in the world to me, and being intentional in that. So consciously and very intentionally making connections with people to truly get to know who they are. That is kind of the essence of me.
Yes, and everyone listening right now is probably they're unless they're watching the YouTube version of this with the footage as you said that fire, and I was like, and you have this beautiful long mane of red hair, and I was like, how fitting is she sitting here talking about fire deep within?
Yeah.
And when you say that, it's so true. You exude compassion and this just and passion in that. I see it in the work that you do, into the energy that you bring into every space that you're in.
Thank you.
So because we're not talking about what you do as identity, but what you do deeply connects to actually who you are as a person. And I think it's a natural extension for so many people, but I think more so even for you and what you do and how you help people. So let's go into that a little bit and share with everyone exactly what you do and the work that you do with people.
Yeah. So ultimately, I do a few different things, but it's all under one theme. So the big underlying theme is I help people live life's amazing moments, specifically people who are recovering from concussion or wanting to improve their overall brain health. So I'm a physical therapist and I solely treat concussion, both acute and persistent. And I work with people in a coaching capacity who want to improve their brain health for overall amazing life. And I do that in different mediums. So I do that through my brick and mortar clinic. I am humbled and honored enough to have people fly in from all over North America to come work with me. The first time that happened, I almost had a heart attack. And then I do it in the online space. So I have this huge mission it's bigger than anything I could ever do alone. And part of that mission involves me mentoring other clinicians in this space about how to be amazing concussion clinicians so that we can help the 60 million people around the world every year who have a concussion. And so there needs to be a ton of clinicians who know what to do, who have the skill set to be empathetic, to know what to do from a physiology perspective and support these clients so that they can live their own lives again. And so I mentor clinicians in a couple of different capacities through programs as well in the online virtual space.
Wow, you dropped a statistic there. I had no idea that there are that many people who incur concussions in the world. So, and that's huge. And the idea of having a traumatic type brain injury that impacts your life it's life altering, and compassion must be extended to the people who are experiencing that. And the idea of the ever changing worlds and landscape of the, like the education around that. Cause I'm going to suspect, just because I feel like everything these days, and it might just be the bubble I'm in because I'm such a like brain nerd myself, but it just seems that there's new discoveries happening as it regards to the brain every day, like leaps and bounds are happening.
I always say that now is probably like the most exciting time to be in the neuroscience space, because there is so much research happening. There's papers released. I am a giant nerd. And so I literally have a Google alert set up and a PubMed alert set up. So I get the summaries of every study released every day on concussion delivered to my email inbox. There's a lot of studies that get delivered to my email inbox.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But it's just so exciting. And for me, the one question I got asked one time was like, how can you just focus on concussion? Like, is there enough clients? And I was like, because there's so much being discovered in this space right now that I don't have, I could, but to have the capacity to stay up to date on that research, to be leading in this space, to be implementing like leading care, I couldn't imagine doing anything else, to be honest. And a big piece of it is, like you talked about, we need improved education and awareness. Like the whole mission is to elevate and evolve the conversation of culture in the world, or elevate and evolve the conversation and culture of concussion in the world, because it's still so far behind. I was talking with a young woman today, literally today on social media, who, this is when I love social media, by the way. She had shared on her stories that she had experienced a concussion. It was 2 weeks and she was still having symptoms. That's not what we want. One of her followers messaged her and told her to follow me. She shared one of my posts, so I thanked her. And then we started talking about her concussion, and she'd only seen her doctor so far because that's what she knew to do. And her doctor was giving her outdated advice of just telling her it just takes time. And I was able to, luckily, I knew where she told me where she lived, and I knew a provider in that area. So I was able to connect her to a concussion-literate provider. That's when social media works absolutely beautifully. But again, it's 2022 and she was still getting outdated advice from her physician because that's all they knew. And so I'm truly on this huge mission, more than anything, to elevate and like evolve this conversation and culture around concussion so people are getting adequate care sooner.
Yeah. And I imagine there's so much impact in that because of the long-term effects of concussion. So this is more of me just like asking a nerdy question because I want to know the answer to it. If it's treated faster and in a better way, does that mitigate the long-term damage to the brain? Like, so I forget, you'll of course know, what is that the thing that happens later when people get like really angry
people
and
are worried
ornery?
about CTE.
Okay. So is that like because you catch it early and treat it better, there's like it lowers the chance of that? Or do we know that?
So CTE doesn't just come from concussions, but multiple concussions can increase your risk of it. But yes, if you can catch it, like if you get diagnosed early and you begin treatment early, it mitigates your risk of later complications and persistent symptoms. So the funny thing is in the world today, people still think a concussion is a bump in the head and it's going to be gone in 2 or 3 days. If you're someone who develops persistent symptoms, it can turn your life upside down. You lose your identity. You lose the ability to do things you did every day. Like your life becomes a different life. And so we absolutely want people to understand this. we don't want you to be scared of concussion, but I want you to understand the significance of it. 80% of people recover totally fine. But we want you to understand that a piece of that is getting care early, getting the right care early to help you help mitigate those prolonged symptoms that can truly disrupt your life.
Yeah. And taking it seriously, right? Not just thinking it's just a bump on the head and you're going to be fine.
Yes. Yes.
Which sounds like what I might have told my daughter if she bumped her head. You're going to be fine. Put some ice on it.
Pretty sure you're not the only one.
Yeah, don't go to sleep.
That's old advice. You can sleep after 4 to 6 hours.
So I'm glad we had this conversation now. I know.
You're updated now.
Yes. So this is a big mission that you are on, which is obviously so needed in creating impact in the world and really just changing the human experience for the people who have incurred, concussions. So because it's such a big mission, I know that we all need people in our lives who have shown us that things are possible. That forges the path for us, right? It calls us up. So in that journey of like where you are now, who's been a super expander for you? I'm sure, we all have many. So I'd love to hear a super expander story, or maybe two.
Oh, there is a ton, but I'm going to talk about two that immediately come to mind. So when I first I've opened my clinic 7 years ago, and I knew nothing about the personal development world, had never heard of any of the names we all know about now. And I joined this community called Healthy Role Models. And it was led by a now dear friend of mine. Her name's Sarah Jilks. And her mission was to support women and create this amazing community of women and introduce them to like different pillars of health. So exercise, mindset, personal development sort of thing. And it was her that first introduced me to Brendon Bouchard. And her who first recommended that I go to one of Brendan's live in-person events. And I remember going to that event and leaving it a changed woman, because for the first time, I'd always thought I was capable of more, but I didn't really understand what that meant. I grew up in a small town, like 9-to-5 jobs, like nothing, no one did big things where I grew up. And leaving that event, all of a sudden I had this fuel and this fire to be like, I love what I do, but I'm supposed to do more. And if it hadn't have been for Sarah and introducing me to this whole other world, it transformed my path 100% without a doubt. I don't know where I would be today, honestly, if she hadn't stepped into my world and opened this whole other door to an element of life that I didn't even know existed.
It does, the whole personal development. It's like this. It's like, what was your gateway drug into finding out that your potential is exponentially more than you ever could have conceived, and then you dip your toe in, and then all of a sudden you're
swept away.
I know, your mind is completely blown, and then all of a sudden you realize that pretty much you can do anything that you put your mind to, absolutely anything you put your mind to. So thank goodness for that introduction into this wide world of unlimited potential.
Haven't stopped since, obviously. And never will, to be honest.
Right? Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah. One other person, well, there's so many. You fall into this list of super expanders for me as well. So
you just made my day.
I'm going to say 3 people, if that's okay, because I'm going to talk about you a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
So you'll be my third story. So my second story is actually with one of my mentors. His name's Brian Bokert, also a speaker in the space, speaks a lot to emotional triggers and shame, and that sort of realm of things. And I 2020-ish probably, was still carrying a crap ton of shame. I'd been assaulted in my early 20s. And I had a lot of feelings around that still. And I remember I can't even tell you why at this point, but I remember I was in a mastermind and Brian was a guest speaker. He didn't know who I was from a hole in the wall. But he was talking about obviously shame, and how that shows up in our world and the words we tend to use in our language when there is a shame-based component to it. And as he's talking, I had never shared with anyone about my assault and like how that made me feel and all those pieces. And as he's talking, I could literally feel like everything bubbling up inside of me. And I remember I asked a couple of questions, but there was something in his delivery and what he spoke about that finally like broke the dam. And it was after he left the mastermind, but I remember the poor people on this call, Corey, oh my God. Because I remember at the end just being like, can I say something? And my facilitator was a friend, George Bryant was the facilitator, who's also another amazing person who's had impact in my life. So many people. But he was just like, yeah. And it like verbal, I was crying, I was shaking, like everything just came like pouring out of me. And I felt so bad for the people on the screen because we'd been in this mastermind for like 2 months together. And like, this was not lighthearted conversation, but like something that Brian spoke about was literally like the dam broke, and it just like I needed to talk about it. Like I needed to share it. I needed to get it out of my chest and out of me and into the world to then start really. And then after doing that, it then gave me the ability to start really working through it and really doing the deep work to process and build who I am on the inside out. And that was a pivotal moment in my growth, in myself as a human, which is then translates into my business and how I deliver and how I found my vision and how I got clarity. So that was another really giant super expander moment for me as well.
I could feel that one as you're telling me. I could like chills all over my body.
Yeah. And then you, because seriously, oh my gosh. So obviously we met in the mastermind. And then because it's got to have been like a year and a bit ago now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Over that, actually.
Yeah, because I think we did 2 rounds, right?
We did 2 rounds. So we did some just hypnosis first, which was good. But then we also started doing hypno breath work, and the hypno breath work that you've guided me through, like it just, again, like it expands my mind every time. It helps me have a deeper understanding of who I am every single time we do it, or it helps bring clarity to a piece I'm trying to struggle with, usually within my personal self, to then like take back and like explode and scale the business, right? There were elements in my business that now exist that came from breath sessions we did, right? So there's so many people, but you definitely fall into that space of like super expander in my world for sure.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I mean, that's why I do what I do. It's, and I love the response of hypnosis. It was okay, but it's funny because that's how I feel about it too, right? That's how I feel about the experience of hypnosis to breath work. Like when I first discovered hypnosis, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And of course, at that point, like I didn't know any better. But then when I found breath work and it got merged with hypnosis, it was like mind blowing. And I think my most favorite part about it is that I can guide someone through a session, but you're the one finding all of your answers. And what's even more, I think, powerful about it than just like a conventional coaching session is that it's like this time and space for you to actually, like, I actually feel like I'm like holding someone when while I'm facilitating it, and you're asking these questions, and there's no need for me to do anything but like to ask the question, to say the cue, and you're inside in this, like your own little world, right? And you're finding the answers. And it's so much better than, I think, like speaking out loud back and forth. I mean, we process afterwards, of course, but you're the only one that knows all of the little nuances and details that could never be conveyed even in a conversation, because we just don't have like the time, like whether it's time or just like it's it's this rich detail that you can't always convey in language. So you get to like drop in, see all of the things, find all of the things, receive all of the things, and then come out. I feel like it's just such a cool experience.
With that, well, and I think even just recently when I messaged you, it's like, I just went on this trip of went on this experience that I logically never would have gone on, but it was so powerful when it like went into like my ancestral line a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, that was interesting. Logically, I never would say throw stuff around. Logically, I never would have gone there. And even in talk therapy, like it wouldn't, or, you know, maybe with my EMDR therapist, I fully believe in therapy. But yeah, it's not a place I logically would have gone. And so I love how you combine the two to help us get deeper. And yeah, it's marvelous.
It's a wild ride, that hypno breath work.
Can be.
Yes, indeed it is. Well, you expand me every time that I have the pleasure of having a conversation with you or guiding you through a session. So thank you. I appreciate you. So inside of you have many things going on inside of your business, bringing a lot of impact into the world, which we can even like share a little bit deeper and further inside of that. But with all of the branches that are going on inside of your business and all of the people that you're helping in the world, what is the one like real driving force that really gets you going, that gets you up in the morning, that moves you through the hard things because it's the thing you're striving for?
Oh, I'm having a hard time putting words to it. Is why I'm so quiet all of a sudden. It's the connection. It's the phone call from the client that says to me, Natasha, since I came home from Nanaimo, I can now run and play with my 3-year-old son again. It's the phone call from the client that says, I was able to go back and finish my PhD. You can probably hear the emotion in my voice. It's the clinician who says, because of everything I've learned in you sharing your knowledge with us, I'm able to open up another branch of my business to help more people in their brain health. It's the clinician that says, I forgot how important it was to take care of myself. So thank you for putting this bonus module in our program that reminds us to prioritize us. It's the random person on social media that messages me and says, your posts were instrumental in helping us know what to do. Thank you so much. My daughter's recovering from her concussion because of it. It's the ripple effect. It's not me. I don't ever need to be the person people remember. It's the ripple effect of my passion and my knowledge, and that if I show up, other people have an amazing impact from that. And then from that, it just ripples and ripples and ripples and ripples. I got asked when I created our flagship program if I would ever have it as just an online course that someone could do on demand. And I didn't even have to think about it. My answer was no. And the answer it was no was because I said, my mission is that I want to elevate the conversation and culture of concussion. The reason we do that is so that people can dream. People can live life moments. My computer's gonna die. Hold on. People can do the things they want to do. They can feel the spectrum and dynamic nature of emotion. And we can't elevate the conversation if we're not having conversations. So no, it will never just be an online program, because that doesn't speak to and is not in alignment with the total mission of my company and what I want to do.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why it is so important to know what your core values are and what your mission statement is, because it could have been so easy for you to have said yes, because it could have been a way for you to bring in extra income, but it would have taken you further away from actually living fully in your purpose and fully in your mission, which is what brings the actual ripple effect. So clarity around those pieces, gosh, it's like this, like listening to you speak it like verbally out loud, it just really drives home the power of having that, being so hyper clear on the thing that you want to create in this world, because it's like so much freedom in knowing that. I know for a lot of people that it can feel they start to have this idea that it's like stifling and limiting to operate from that place. But that's the only way that you actually have the freedom and the space and like all of the energy to put into something to create the big thing that you want to create.
I would say going to work doesn't feel like going to work, right? I mean, I think of, so we're filming some elements for the Concussion Nerds program right now, and it's summer. So my kids are home. So I have 3 kids. So they're home, which means my house is no longer a quiet place to film. So we closed my clinic on Mondays over the summer. And so I moved all my filming, and I have a treatment room that's not being used right now. So I moved all my filming gear into the clinic, and I sat down with my husband. I also communicate very clearly with my husband what my mission is and what I'm working on, because otherwise he's like, what do you mean you're working on a Saturday? And we like sit down and have this conversation, and I filmed on the Friday and the Saturday. And I would if you on my stories, I would pause on filming, and then I would dance is huge to me. So I would go dance around my clinic and put on a good song, hence the playlist I asked you for. Right. And it's just, again, when you understand what your body needs to restore, when you understand the cues of when your body needs a break and you don't push through that, when you understand the reason you're doing what you're doing, that energy is very easy to find.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're speaking the language of flow state over there. I love it. And I was funny because I was just talking earlier today about the need to restore. So many of us who are high achievers, high performers, forget that we actually have to stop and rest, because otherwise it diminishes your ability to drop into that powerful place of flow state, which really creates the magic that we all create.
Yeah. I was talking with someone just this week, I usually, or at least in the last, I've been vibing pretty high. my vibrational frequency, I feel like is going pretty significantly lately in the most beautiful way possible. But the last couple days, so what is it? Wednesday, so Sunday, Monday, I could feel my vibrations were lower. And my whole theme for myself this year is to tap into and trust my intuitive self. And so recognizing when I'm vibing lower, that's not a bad thing. That's my body asking for some restoration. And so how do I give my body that? And for me, it changes over time, but for me, that's always, I need expansion in space. So it's always a walk to my lake. I say my lake because it's 2 minutes out my front door. It's always going to sit on the rock, overseeing the lake and doing some breath practice. And it's always a solo walk around. That is one of the most restorative things I can do for myself. And it's a day with no work. My computer doesn't get opened. My phone gets turned on once in a while. But when I'm vibing low, that's my body's call for you need to go to bed a little earlier. You need to do your lake walk. You might need to have a nice hot bubble bath. Right. And I think as entrepreneurs, we forget to listen to that. Right. We get so busy in that. I've done it. I'm sure, I know you've done it. We go. And we burn ourselves out, and we don't listen to these calls from our body to be you need to rest. It doesn't mean you need to rest forever, but you need to rest, because if you don't give yourself that moment, you're actually going to set yourself further back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's it's a dance, right? When we're in it, it's so hard to do that sometimes, right? To carve out the time, because you're I just want to keep going. Oftentimes we're toddlers that way, right? It's so true.
Even when I was filming, I was like, one more video. And I was like, no, Natasha, like your brain's starting to turn mushy. Like it's time to like step back, do some stretching, get some water, eat some food, and then come back this. But even then it was like, oh, just one more video. And so I actually tried to do it. This was the universe talking to me. I tried to film a video because I was like, no, it's one more video. It'll be like 5 minutes. Like I can do this and then I'll go eat. Then I'll shut down. My system crashed. And I was like, okay, nope, reset. Good. Okay. Getting this done. It crashed again.
Touche, universe. You have
like,
been heard.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, I hear you. I'm done. I'm done.
Yes. Message received.
Got it. Went to film the next day, worked beautifully.
Of course it did. Of course it did. Oh, you gotta love those little messages that we get, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. So now that we know your North Star, your guiding force, there has to be, I don't know, a little juicy nugget of wisdom that you might want to share. Sort of, I guess it's the whole entire podcast is your super expander moment, but this is like it all summarized into one short little burst of.
Mm-hmm. It's going to sound so cliche, but it's because it's so true. I think as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for that next thing, right? We're looking for that tool or that strategy or that person that can help take us to the next level. And from my own experience and from what I've seen from other people that I've worked with or that I coach is truly having the courage, because it's courageous, can I swear?
Yeah.
It's courageous as fuck. To have the courage to go deep into yourself, to work on the things that you don't even realize you need to work on, to set and prioritize you, is truly the best investment you could ever make in yourself and your business. And it sounds so cliche, but going from my own journey, and that's what I also help people with too in the non-concussion space. I have invested heavily in myself this year. And that is what has led to everything that is happening in my business. And it's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, because your business really truly will only grow to the extent that we personally grow, because it's just a mirror, right? As entrepreneurs, we are by nature problem solvers. And really that begins with the internal problems, issues, things that we need to address to move through so that we can bring our gifts and talents and impact into the world through our businesses.
When I talk about brain health as a whole, I talk about very much autonomic health and the autonomic nervous system and the pillars that surrounded the health. And when I talk about it in the capacity of, in my science, eBrain too, it's when we address our brain health, when we prioritize our autonomic health, that builds our capacity. Once you have built your business can only grow and will only scale to the capacity that you can hold and support it. 100%. So by building and prioritizing yourself and building that foundation of autonomic and brain health, you are literally expanding your dynamic capacity for problem solving, for everything, which then as your capacity expands, so does your ability for your business to scale.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's huge, right? And that's, it's funny because so often I think inside of our businesses, we have these hopes or goals, whatever it happens to be, a big launch that we want to invite in a certain number of people or a certain number that we want to hit in our bank accounts. And then we get really mad when we don't hit those goals. But the real truth is, it wasn't necessarily about hitting the goals. It was that you actually, like basically you had this energetic protection that has happened for you, that you didn't hit the number, you didn't hit the financial goal because you actually weren't ready to hold it all.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And very recently have started coming to that realization. I had a moment recently where this is going to sound so money's been coming up in my world a lot. And obviously I dream of a life of abundance and in all aspects, and love, in joy and happiness and wealth, because the more money I can make, the bigger impact I can spread it in this world. And my personal credit card one day started bouncing auto payments. And I was like, what the heck? It's empty. There's no reason for it to bounce. And I had contacted my bank manager, and she was like, I don't know. And it stopped. So I was like, oh, all right, that was a weird glitch. And then there was another moment, I think we talked about it, where something else happened with auto payments with my other company's credit card, and my community got shut down that I run my concussion nerds community through. Now, normally on their side, they're supposed to be, you're supposed to get an email saying we couldn't process your payment, and, please update your credit card information. Well, I didn't get that. Their system glitched. So it just actually shut down my community that I run my business through completely. And I remember being like, oh my God, what the heck? And I started being like, this is terrible, business sense. And then I was like, okay, hold on. What is actually happening here? Right. So that ability to step back and be what is the universe trying to teach me in this moment? Mm-hmm. And there was this realization for myself that here I am, calling in abundance in the world. And there were things I needed to do to better organize my shit to welcome the money to come in. There was greater awareness I needed in a few areas before that money would feel safe to come in. And so I was like, universe tapped on my door with the personal credit card that I clearly didn't catch that message. So then it tapped on my door a little bit harder with the scenario that we were able to rectify really quickly. But that was enough for me to take awareness to what happened, to be like, ooh, I got some things I got to organize first. And it completely, from that moment, changed some elements of my morning routine to create the awareness I needed to create. But if I had ignored that, I have no doubt I would have got the door thrown open instead of just knocked on with something in the regard. Right. So it's having this capacity and having this awareness to welcome that abundance and the money and the wealth and the love and the joy into your world.
Nah, I love that. It's so true. And you get the tap, we get the slap, yeah. And then all of a sudden, watch out. You better. Oh goodness. Luckily the slap wasn't too traumatic, right? No. As it came.
I ignored the tap, but I got the slap. So.
Yeah, thank goodness it wasn't a whack on the head with a 2x4, which was coming next. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I can't treat myself if that happens. So we'll avoid that one.
So I know that all the super expanders that are listening here are curious about a few things. One is the programs that you offer and how they can get into your world. So a few things I'd love to hear and have you share with the world here what your programs actually are, who they're for specifically, which we've been dabbling throughout the entire conversation with that, but really, really getting specific. And then as everyone's listening and hearing who it's for and how they can get into your world, and if they know someone who has had a concussion, where they can send them. Maybe they don't need you, but they know someone who does.
I would love to share. So there's a few different ways into my world. So let's start with if you have a concussion or you know someone who has a concussion. So that is right now, it's through my clinic. So I own a clinic in Nanaimo, British Columbia, and I do what's called a hybrid program. So people come and work with me intensely for a week in Nanaimo, and then I support them virtually for 3 months after. So I have clients that come from all over North America to be part of that type of programming that we do. So that is how clients specifically can work with me. For everything, you can reach out to me through Instagram, which is just at natasha.wilch. I am the only one in my DMs. I answer everyone's questions. Regardless if you have a question or just want to say hi, come drop it and say hello. So if you're someone with a concussion or know someone who needs help with a concussion and wants to work with me specifically, that is how you do it. The other avenue is both. So I have an avenue both for clinicians and then for more of an entrepreneurial brain health space. So for when I say clinicians, I am talking about any clinician who is passionate about working with people with concussion. So this is typically physical therapists, chiropractors, occupational therapists, athletic therapists, massage therapists, neurooptometrists. Did I say acupuncture? We have acupuncturists in the community. Any clinician, because I don't think it's profession dependent, who wants to learn how to or be part of working with people with concussion. So there's a few different avenues in my world for that. One is we have a monthly dose of brain science digital magazine called Concussion Currents. So what we do is we summarize 4 to 6 of, remember how I said I get those inboxes, all the latest studies to my inbox every day? We summarize 4 to 6 of those studies for you in nice, easy to read, beautiful language, beautiful format. And then we, as the Currents team, give you immediate clinical applications to pull into your practice. We give you immediate tools to use. It takes on average between 7 and 10 years for research to reach clinical practice. Through the Currents, we're trying to decrease that time. So anyone can subscribe to that. It's a yearly subscription and you get it delivered to your inbox every month.
Amazing.
Then there's my Concussion Nerds program. So Concussion Nerds is, it's the thing that started all of this, to be honest. It was the like, fire me up, get me going, like, oh my gosh, I need to do this. Concussion Nerds is my clinician mentorship program. So it's a 3-pillared program that involves community with multidisciplinary clinicians, live mentorship with me, and then a core curriculum, a pre-recorded core curriculum with gorgeous workbooks, by the way, that truly guides you through how you rehab both an acute concussion and a persistent concussion through a multi-systems, multimodal approach. So I am very big, as you can't just look at a neck, you can't just look at an eyeball, you need to look at the whole person. You need to understand how each of your physiological systems are functioning to understand how to best apply treatment. And that is what I teach them how to do. So that's Concussion Nerds. Then we have a program called the Immersion. And the Immersion is probably the deepest container that is available to work with me in. It's in September. There is a maximum of 6 people that are able to join this program. We have 4 spots left. The Immersion is where, as a clinician, again, you come to Nanaimo, you stay in a beautiful Airbnb with a water view. It's gorgeous. Your meals are cooked for you, and you have 5 days with me where we blend concussion clinical mentorship, personal discovery, and business into these 5 days. And then they have a month of one-on-one boxer support with me after. I don't do that for anyone else. So that's the Immersion. And then lastly it's called the Residency. The Residency is ultimately where the nerds will move into the residency, but also open to clinicians who have a wealth of experience that didn't need the education from nerds. The Residency is where we truly go deeper, both personally and professionally, in the world of concussion. And that beautiful lineup.
I know, I love it.
It's my programs. For me, it was about creating avenues of access for clinicians to meet them where they're at, because each of those programs is a deeper level of knowledge and connection. And so I wanted to be able to have an avenue for the person who is just maybe kind of interested, like with Currents and wants to dip in, or the clinician who just wants to make sure they stay updated. And then there's deeper levels based on where you're at in your own journey as a clinician in this space.
So good. And of course, we will drop all of the information into the show notes. And if they want to just find you on social, what's your handle?
At natasha.wilch.
Which will also be in the show notes. So go ahead, give her a follow, reach out, say hello. You heard her say how important connection is to her. So, reach out, make the connection.
Please do.
Thank you so much for being here today, sharing your wisdom, your impact in the world, for helping people who have had a brain injury and need support. So thank you for changing the world. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I also appreciate you.